Giddings, April 18, 1984, June 26, 2011, was an American woman who was murdered by Stephen Mark McDaniel, born 1985, on July. Lauren Giddings spent the summer after she graduated from law school preparing for perhaps the most important test she would ever take, the Georgia Bar exam. Her close friend Katie and sister Caitlin attempted to check in on her via text in the days that followed, but were met with constant silence. The pair began to worry after 3 days passed without anyone being able to get hold of Lauren, and eventually decided to alert the local police. A few days after murdering Lauren Giddings, Stephen McDaniel posed as a concerned neighbor on the local news, but his charade crumbled when he learned from the reporter that her body had just been found. Stephen McDaniel, Macon County Police Department. Stephen McDaniel was stunned when he learned that the body of his victim, Lauren Giddings, had been found. In the early hours of June 26, 2011, Stephen McDaniel broke into the apartment of his neighbor and fellow Mercer University Law School graduate Lauren Giddings, then murdered her and dismembered her body. During the interview, McDaniel posed as a concerned neighbor. He described Giddings as nice as can be and very personable. But shortly into the interview, McDaniel's behavior took a dramatic turn. After he learned from the reporter that a body had been found, his worry turned to utter panic. "Body?" he said, visibly anxious. "I think I need to sit down." Though some may have initially thought that McDaniel's reaction was merely the shock of losing a friend, police named him as a person of interest in the investigation just 1 day later. And it was later revealed that McDaniel was indeed the one who had killed Giddings and butchered her body. In the meantime, another of her friends agreed to stop by the student's apartment to check in, using the spare key that was always left outside. She reported that there was nothing unusual about the scene, but that Lauren's stuff had been strewn everywhere because she was packing up and getting ready to move out. Worryingly, she found Lauren's purse, cell phone, and car keys all left inside, indicating that she had not left voluntarily. The searches became increasingly frantic until a gruesome discovery was made. Lauren's torso, which had been wrapped in a black garbage bag, was found dumped in a trash can near her apartment. Following the harrowing find, Macon Police Chief Mike Burns spoke at a press conference during which he said, "I want to ask the public to help us with this investigation. The victim was dismembered, so if the public smells any kind of foul odor, to please contact the police department." Lauren's former college classmate and next-door neighbor, Stephen McDaniel, gave statements to media outlets at the time, stating, "She's as nice as can be, very personable, very much a people person. We don't know where she is. The only thing we can think is that maybe she went to running and someone snatched her." Midway through his interview with McDaniel was asked about the recently discovered remains, at which point his face went blank, he stuttered, and then went to sit down. Returning to speak to the camera just a short time later, McDaniel appeared to be fighting back the tears and, with his voice wavering, asked, "Why would anyone do this? If I saw something, maybe I could have helped." Lauren's boyfriend David Vandiver was initially put under the spotlight until other details began to emerge. McDaniel had not attended class around the time Lauren went missing, and it was widely known that he owned a series of weapons. Lauren's mother described him as a recluse who Lauren had encouraged to come out with the class. He had 2 keys set out on his dresser. One was a master key to the entire complex, and the other was for Lauren's apartment. Police also found a stash of child pornography and a pair of Lauren's underwear in his bedroom drawer. There was a large bloody sheet in the laundry room of the apartment complex and a hacksaw with human flesh found in a storeroom, with the original packaging found in McDaniel's apartment. Lauren authorities also found a camera that McDaniel had used to record Lauren in her apartment on the night that she was killed. An examination of his body revealed a series of scratches on his abdomen. Furthermore, officers obtained surveillance footage from a Walmart store 3 days before Lauren was murdered, where he purchased plastic-hooded ponchos and rope. McDaniel said that in the early hours of the morning he broke into Lauren's apartment, using the master key, wearing an all-black ensemble, including gloves and a mask that covered his face. He stood watching her sleep, but she woke up with a start before he leaped across the bed and put his hand around her throat. The pair struggled and fell to the ground where Lauren was able to remove McDaniel's mace. "Mask," she apparently pleaded with him to stop, but he continued to strangle her for 15 minutes until she stopped moving. McDaniel then dragged her lifeless body into the bathtub before leaving to his own apartment. He returned later that evening with a hacksaw and cut up her body, removing her limbs and head. The killer wrapped the parts in several trash bags before discarding them in a dumpster on the phone. In a written confession, McDaniel admitted to using a master key to get into Lauren's apartment and attacking Lauren in her sleep. He says he strangled her, then dismembered her in the bathtub with a hacksaw. He took some of her body to a dumpster behind the law school, leaving her torso at Barristers Hall. Caitlin says it was shocking and saddening that Stephen was the one who killed her sister. Once the nightmares and fear of what happened to Lauren faded, the family began to heal, never forgetting Lauren. They often talk about her bubbly personality, how she was a go-getter, what she liked and didn't like. In the early hours of June 26, 2011, Stephen McDaniel broke into the apartment of his neighbor and fellow Mercer University Law School graduate Lauren Giddings, then murdered her and dismembered her body. Remove ads and support us with a membership. On June 29th, Giddings' family and friends reported her missing. When local news media in Macon, Georgia heard about her disappearance, they sent a camera crew to her apartment complex. There, on June 30th, reporters from the television station WGXA conducted an interview with McDaniel. During the interview, McDaniel posed as a concerned neighbor. He described Giddings as nice as can be and very personable. But shortly into the interview, McDaniel's behavior took a dramatic turn. After he learned from the reporter that a body had been found, his worry turned to utter panic. "Body?" he said, visibly anxious. "I think I need to sit down." Though some may have initially thought that McDaniel's reaction was merely the shock of losing a friend, police named him as a person of interest in the investigation just one day later, and it was later revealed that McDaniel was indeed the one who had killed Giddings and butchered her body. Remove ads and support us with a membership. Given the nature of the crime, the brutality of it, and how little contact McDaniel had with Giddings prior to the murder, many believe that had he not been caught, he would have gone on to kill even more women. Inside the Twisted Mind of Stephen McDaniel. Stephen McDaniel was born on September 9, 1985, and grew up near Atlanta, Georgia. His early life was unremarkable, but as a young man, he was academically inclined enough to graduate from Mercer University's law school. His future victim, Lauren Giddings, was another graduate. Remove ads and support us with a membership. By 2011, both 25-year-old McDaniel and 27-year-old Giddings lived in the same apartment complex, a short distance from the school's campus. At the time, Giddings was preparing to take the bar exam and then start a promising career as a defense attorney. But tragically, while Giddings had been preparing for the bar, McDaniel had been preparing for her murder. At first glance, McDaniel didn't seem like he had it in him to commit such a heinous crime. As the Macon Telegraph reported, it didn't even seem like he was staying in town for much longer. The lease on his apartment was up in 2 weeks, and he reportedly planned on moving back in with his parents. But as police would later discover, McDaniel had been posting on the internet about his hatred of women and his desire to torture them. Oddly enough, he was also something of a survivalist, stockpiling food and energy drinks in his apartment. And as he told police during an interrogation, he often wore the same pair of underwear for more than one day at a time. Lauren Giddings had previously mentioned to her sister that something seemed strange about her apartment. She felt things had been moved around. Someone had been in her apartment, Wheeler said. Investigators found that Giddings sent her last email on the evening of June 25, 2011, to her boyfriend, David Van Dever. Van Dever was on a golf trip in California, and Giddings mentioned that she thought someone had tried to break into her apartment on the night of Thursday, June 23rd. McDaniel didn't have much luck when it came to women. He was on a Harmony, but he didn't land many dates. He was also a self-professed virgin, claiming that he was saving himself for marriage, and yet he had condoms in his apartment, a fact that would later prove to be very important in the investigation of Lauren Giddings' murder. McDaniel caught the attention of the authorities shortly after the investigation began. Shortly after Giddings' dismembered torso was found in a trash can near her apartment complex on the morning of June 30th, McDaniel and Giddings' other neighbors had been taken to the police station to give statements about the young woman's disappearance. At the time, none of them knew that her remains had been found. With overwhelming evidence stacked against him, McDaniel admitted to police that, on the night of Giddings' murder, he used his master key to enter her apartment as she slept, wearing a mask over his face. McDaniel then dragged her lifeless body into the bathtub before leaving to his own apartment. He returned later that evening with a hacksaw and cut up her body, removing her limbs and head. The killer wrapped the parts in several trash bags before discarding them in a dumpster on campus. He stashed her torso separately in the bin where it was found days later. McDaniel said he cut up the mask, gloves and shirt and flushed them down the toilet. It's difficult for me to explain why I killed Lauren and attempted to conceal my deed the way I did, McDaniels has since said. McDaniel admitted that he'd broken into 2 neighboring apartments and stolen 1 condom from each one. With this information, police arrested him and brought him in for further interrogation. McDaniel initially pleaded not guilty, but when prosecutors agreed to drop the child sexual exploitation charges, he changed his mind. In April 2014, a week before his trial was set to start, Stephen McDaniel admitted to killing and dismembering Lauren Giddings. Caitlin and I both have kids, and we want to pass those memories down to them, so that's what they know of their Aunt Lauren. They are specifically thankful for the memories they made right before her death, at her graduation and Caitlin's wedding. The wedding day. Having her there was so special and important. To be just 1 week before she died was just a blessing for us. For the whole family to see her one last time and to be all together. I think it rare to have such a great memory before such a tragic time like that. The good memories are what they think of most. Rather than how Lauren was taken from them, Caitlin named her daughter Lauren in her sister's memory.